Which was your worst I knew I shouldn't have done this moment? When I was 6 years old and stuck my little finger in a pencil sharpener and twisted it a few times like it was a pencil. I nearly passed out. Maybe you realized at an early age that you weren't that sharp. I was ironing my clothes when I decided to put the iron on the carpet while my mom went shopping. I was about 5 years old and the next door neighbors took me to meet their horses. The mom gave very clear and explicit instructions on how to be near and handle the horses and proceeded to start to brush one of them. In my infinite wisdom I walked behind the horse and very timidly grazed its beautiful tail with my small hand. That's the day I became the 1978 Connecticut State Rodeo Champion. With lightning speed I was hit with a force I wouldn't again feel until as an adult I was in a car accident. I was launched out of the stall and halfway across the common area. As I lay stunned, gasping for breath, I knew I shouldn't have done that. Not gonna lie dude. It's a wonder you're alive. A horse kick to the skull can be deadly, let alone to a child. I pushed a pot of hot oil off the stovetop. Funny thing about physics. The oil splashed back all over my hand. At least it wasn't your face. I bought the house we'd been renting for a few years without getting an inspection first. We were trying to do it super cheap. And I told my wife, look, we already know everything that's wrong with this house. Why bother getting an inspection? Follow up: we did not know everything that was wrong with this house, nor how expensive it would be to fix those things. In 4th grade my parents remodeled the kitchen. This involved digging up part of the foundation to rebuild the deck. As such we had a giant dirt pile in the backyard. I was playing on it, jumped off, tripped and fell face first on concrete. I immediately knew something was wrong. I ran inside and opened my mouth and looked in the bathroom mirror. I was missing about a third of my top right front tooth. I distinctly recall saying out loud, "Yup, it's gone." I have a very similar injury and a story that'll be right at home on this thread. My twin brother got the idea to tow me on roller skates behind his bicycle. It took some convincing on his part. He thought it was the most awesome idea ever. I didn't. But he convinced me. He tied a jump rope to his bike as a tow rope. Got me going absolutely stupid fast and then my foot hit something. That's the I knew I shouldn't have done this moment. I fell on my face. Ran into the house to get my knees and hands patched up and then noticed that my tooth felt weird. Sharp. Almost half of it was gone. Do you have a filling or a crown now? Either way, F all that dental work. I ate 3 packs of noodles with 12 meatballs in 20 minutes. I'm assuming college is in this context for some reason. Bully started walking away and my amazing brain came up with, yeah, you better walk away. He then turned around and iced bricks. Should have picked them up and thrown them at him. Microwaving raw cookie dough. You should try hard boiling eggs in a microwave sometime. I was working as a stuntman and it was my last performance with a particular stunt group. They wanted me to do a particularly dangerous version of a stunt that I was pretty uncomfortable with. I'd done the regular version thousands of times and could practically do it in my sleep. I agreed to do it because T was just the one time. What were the odds of me being hurt doing it just the one time? I thought. Later that day I was in the second hospital. After being airlifted from the first because my injuries were too severe for it. Had literally a gallon of blood transfusions. They weighed me before and after, and life-saving surgery. If you have a bad feeling about something, take it seriously. Not sure if dumbus or badass lol. Regardless, you're a trooper. Hope you healed up well and everything is good though. Responding to a "Hey, how have you been?" FB message from an ex. And also, pretty much any time I've loaned a person money. Yeah, I don't loan anyone more money than I'm willing to lose in the street and just assume I'm never going to see it again. It's a vague memory. I think I was around 3 or 4, maybe 5. I had this big goof of a German shepherd who was my best friend and guardian, but who liked to eat bugs and lizards. We were living in Nicaragua, and so bugs and lizards were not in short supply. I don't know why I decided to copy the dog, but I saw a huge spider and decided to eat it. I have this memory that I'm sure has been exaggerated, but I clearly remember my little heart clasping a huge spider by the abdomen, legs sticking out between my fingers, and popping it into my mouth. I bit down, chewed, and still to this day have a vivid memory of the legs dangling out of my mouth as I ate this giant. It tasted awful, and it felt so terrible to bite down onto. I have occasional nightmares about it now, and I'm in my mid-40s. I want to time travel just to tell 3 or 4-year-old me, don't eat that spider. Don't eat absolutely massive spiders, folks. You'll regret it. I bet your dog was impressed. Ordering just one more drink. Been there. Done that. Don't have the memories. After doing that way too many times, I started doing this whenever I felt okay. Just one last drink. That was officially when I'd stop myself. Because if I want one last drink, I'm probably already drunk and the last drink probably hasn't even hit my system yet. Got distracted while my wok with some oil in it was heating up. When I snapped back to reality, my hand just automatically threw in the dried chili flakes. It was like an out-of-body experience. My brain couldn't stop my hand in time. And that's how I maced myself and the dog. I offered to teach the new guy at the hospital how to take a body down the freezer. We only had 4 freezers, and on this particular day they were all full. It was 1 AM when we got down there and realized this. Protocol is when all the freezers are full, you have to take the body out that's been in the freezer the longest and put it on the harvesting table. Well, the gentleman who had passed from alcohol poisoning was roughly 300 pounds and was unfortunately the one who had been in there the longest. So the security guard, myself, and the trainee had to lift this guy out of the bottom freezer and onto the harvesting table and then carry 6 trash bags full of ice from the kitchen back to the morgue. We didn't leave until 3 AM and the trainee quit the following day. Yeah, I would have quit at 3 AM. I touched the coil in a toaster with a knife while it was switched on. When the power in the house cut out, I thought I should not have done that. When I told my father what I'd done, I knew for sure I should not have done that. When I was a child, my grandmother told me that if I did that, I would get electrocuted and die in a very painful way. To this day I'm still low-key terrified of toasters. I accepted the responsibility of cooking way too much for an event. I just kept saying yes. The day came and I was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. I grabbed the grate in the oven to pull it out with my bare hands. Why didn't I use oven mitts? I was pissed. So I kept going and needed to strain noodles and grabbed them off the stove and started straining them on my way to the sink. Hot water all over my legs and feet. Worst cooking day of my life. I broiled burger patties on a shallow cookie sheet and the small lake of grease that accumulated caught fire. Burgers were great though. Redditor discovered this one weird trick to making flame broiled Whoppers at home. Burger King hates him. Going to my insane ex's house alone to pick up my that I didn't actually care about. We broke up because she tried to stab me when I got home from drinking at the bar with a few friends. Really? Really? What would you have said if she went nuts and threatened you? What are you going to do? Stab me? When I was around 12 I noticed that nail polish remover felt cold and kind of nice as it evaporated from my fingers. So I decided to put some on my lady part. I flushed a houseplant down a toilet. I didn't want to make my parents mad at me for breaking the houseplant and I wanted to get rid of the evidence. So naturally I thought the best way to get rid of it was to flush it down the toilet. Flushed the toilet and none of the dirt went down. Started to panic and continued to flush for 20 minutes straight. Managed to get rid of all of it somehow. Now later I realize that probably wasn't at all good for either the environment nor the plumbing system. 7th grade I accepted a dare to slap this girl on the butt. Turns out the principal was like 10 feet behind me and saw the whole thing. Took me straight to his office but something else came up and he told me he'd come pull me out of class later to discuss further. Enough time goes by that I assume he forgot. When he eventually shows up, he catches me looking at naked villagers in a National Geographic. Well, that was a bad day. Shook my head the entire time reading this comment. Lol. That wasn't an emotional roller coaster. It was just a slide. When I was little I didn't know how the can opener worked. So I opened the can with a knife and hurt myself. I knew this would happen. But I was hungry and impatient. Luckily I didn't hurt myself that bad. Have a scar on my finger. But that's it. More luck than judgment. And I was able to open the can with a knife. I am still embarrassed that I didn't know how the can opener worked. The toilet is opposite the laundry hamper in my bathroom. I was getting undressed for a shower and casually tossed my socks into the toilet. As soon as they left my hands, I let out a strangled no, which sent my husband running in to start laughing at me for the rest of the night. I gave a speech in high school that the way to solve the issue of single parent families in the hood was to subsidize restaurant dinner dates so poor women could see men interact with waiters in order to reveal their character and thus make more informed mating choices. You in government now? It makes sense in a frictionless vacuum sort of logic. Moment I finally lost control of the dolly and the refrigerator that was strapped to it started bouncing down the stairway like a refine rocket. Trying to move it alone is what I should not have done. My suspicion was confirmed a second later when it slammed full speed into the concrete wall at the bottom of the stairs and came to a dead stop. Not surprisingly, it never worked after that. So I immediately had to lug it back out of the basement and pay for disposal. 0/10. Would not recommend. Man, I'm living through it hard right now. I had a job offer for a job I really wanted because it seemed like something I needed to have on my resume. But positions are fairly competitive. Clerkship. I had researched my boss and read some pretty terrible things about them. And it required moving to a city I really did not want to live in. But I threw caution to the wind. Ignored my gut feeling about all this, even after being explicitly warned about the job by another coworker, and took the job. After the brief feeling of relief at finally getting the position, I spent months fearing the job as I studied for the bar. The entire time trying to tell myself it wouldn't be that bad, and then it turned out it was even worse. The only bright spot is it was a year-long gig and it's nearly over. But it's been a tough year and it's basically all my own fault and entirely predictable. Met a guy online through language exchange. We ended up talking about this and that and the subject of ugly-eyed pics came up. I wanted to show him my funny-eyed pic. And yes, ladies and gents, I accidentally leaked my home address to a sketchy stranger on the internet. Got married at 19 to the first girl I F'd. A fella I went to school with did that. The marriage never lasted that long once they went out into the world and started to meet other people. They just drifted apart. I was walking down the aisle and he wasn't even making eye contact with me. He was staring at his shoes. It took me way too long to realize you were talking about a wedding. Thought at first you were trying to flirt or something while shopping. When I put dish soap in the dishwasher, had dirty dishes from spaghetti and was out of the stuff I usually use. Thought if I put dish soap in it would be okay. Didn't realize how wrong I was until the kitchen looked like a foam party.